Welcome to This Explainer. If you just stop and look around, we live in this incredibly hyper-connected modern world, right? You can literally board a plane in one hemisphere and land in a totally different one just a few hours later. But what exactly protects this super fragile, fast-moving ecosystem of ours from just complete systemic collapse? Well, it's not massive armies or giant concrete walls. It's actually an invisible shield made up of global health and food security protocols. And today, we're going to make that invisible shield visible. All right, so here is our roadmap for today. We're covering 1. Defining modern global security. 2. Threats to our health. 3. Epidemic, pandemic, or endemic. 4. The preparedness blueprint. And 5. The food security equation. Let's just dive right in.
Section 1. Defining modern global security.
Okay, we really have to redefine what security actually means in the 21st century, because traditional borders and heavily armored tanks, they absolutely cannot stop the quiet invasion of a microscopic disease. What's really fascinating to me is this incredibly powerful human-centric definition from the World Health Organization. And get this, it's not some brand new concept. It was written way back in 1948. It really proves that health isn't just about surviving, it's about thriving. It's the complete physical, mental, and social well-being of a person. If we're only focusing on the mere absence of disease, we are totally missing the bigger picture of what makes a society truly secure.
And taking that holistic, wide-angle view of health leads us directly to the concept of global public health security. Notice those two words there, proactive and reactive. This is the whole shebang. It's the collective worldwide effort necessary to safeguard our highly mobile, super interdependent populations. When a health event pops up in one region, it can rapidly spill over and affect others. So global security literally means recognizing that our borders are porous and our defenses have to be universally cooperative.
Section 2. Threats to our health. Let's actually look at the major risks and see what's threatening that global stability we just talked about. We aren't just facing a single villain here. The sheer variety of threats today is kind of staggering. We've got emerging infectious diseases, those highly transmissible novel viruses that literally keep scientists up at night. But we also face deliberate threats, like bioterrorism or even accidental chemical and radiological incidents. Then there's the slow-moving, creeping crisis of antimicrobial resistance, or AMR, where our trusty antibiotics simply begin to fail us. And finally, environmental health hazards, like climate-driven pollution, which are basically rewriting disease patterns all around the globe.
So the absolutely crucial point to take away is that these threats are not just medical issues confined to some hospital ward. They are massive economic wrecking balls. When a major health threat hits, it totally overwhelms our healthcare systems, but it also severely disrupts global supply chains, it erodes public trust, and it massively impacts national security. The economic and social costs are just astronomical. It leads to widespread fear, halted trade, and a huge decline in our daily quality of life.
Section 3. Epidemic, pandemic, or endemic.
Let's untangle some of this vital terminology that gets thrown around constantly in the news, but is honestly so frequently misunderstood. Knowing the difference here is the key to understanding how we respond globally. Let's start with an epidemic. An epidemic is an unexpected local surge of a condition in a specific geographical area. And surprisingly, actually, scratch that, it doesn't even have to be a contagious disease at all. While things like yellow fever or measles are obvious examples, rapid, unexpected increases in obesity rates or smoking perfectly fit this definition too. It's just about a rate that is clearly above the expected occurrence in a specific community.
Now, a pandemic, on the other hand, is strictly about skyrocketing exponential growth across borders. What's super interesting here is that being officially declared a pandemic by the WHO actually has nothing to do with population immunity, virology, or even how severe the disease itself is. It simply means the virus is covering a huge area, affecting several countries, with cases growing more each day than the day prior. It's all about the math and the geography.
So, putting them side by side, we can see the two extremes of outbreak behavior. On the one hand, the unpredictable, completely borderless explosion of a pandemic. But contrasting that, we have an endemic disease. Endemic basically means the outbreak is consistently present, but it's limited to a particular region, which makes its spread and rates largely predictable. Think of malaria in certain parts of the world. It is tragically persistent, yes, but its behavior is known and expected, unlike the sudden, chaotic shock of a new pandemic.
Section 4. The preparedness blueprint.
Let's pivot to how we actually reinforce our armor, focusing heavily on the WHO's goals to protect billions of people worldwide. Instead of thinking of health security as the static, immovable concrete wall, We have to treat it like a dynamic, 5-step cyclical process. We've got to implement proactive measures for prevention, like vaccines. We need really rapid detection systems to identify threats early on. We need an immediate coordinated response to soften the blow. We have to engage in long-term preparedness by stockpiling resources. And finally, constant surveillance, meaning systematically collecting and analyzing health data to spot trends way before they spiral out of control.
And to make this 5-step blueprint actually work in the real world, we need concrete elements, right? We need solid physical healthcare infrastructure, hospitals, labs, clinics. We need a well-trained, fully equipped workforce ready to go. Crucially, we need international cooperation and totally open data sharing, because no single nation can defeat a global threat by itself. No way. We even rely heavily on advanced mathematical modeling to test out different interventions and predict exactly how a pathogen might spread. Every single one of these elements is an absolutely vital piece of the survival puzzle.
Section 5. The Food Security Equation.
As we reach the second half of this explainer, we really have to talk about the silent partner of global stability, food security. Because what happens when the threat isn't a virus at all, but a lack of basic sustenance? This question bridges our topics perfectly, because let's face it, that complete physical, mental, and social well-being we talked about at the very beginning, utterly impossible without foundational nourishment. A starving or malnourished population simply cannot fight off an epidemic or maintain a functioning society.
Going back to the 1996 World Food Summit, this is our benchmark. Achieving food security means everyone has physical and economic access to safe, nutritious food, always. And we have to realize this isn't just about charity. It is an essential core investment in wider global stability. Where there is widespread food insecurity, you inevitably see the mass displacement of people, regional instability, and conflict that just ripples out across the entire globe.
Food security rests firmly on 4 core pillars, and the tricky part is they must all be met simultaneously. Use means having basic things like clean water and fuel so you can properly prepare food and absorb nutrients safely. Access is all about affordability. Can people actually afford to buy it despite high inflation? Or can they physically reach the markets despite extreme weather? Availability relies on global transport links, import costs, and farmers actually having access to seeds and fertilizer. And then there's the final pillar, which literally touches all the rest.
Stability. When one link breaks, it destroys the entire chain. Stability is that cross-cutting element. For example, in recent conflicts, such as the one in Gaza, when food access and availability are suddenly cut off, that instability leads to immediate, soaring food insecurity. It objectively proves that our global food systems are incredibly fragile and deeply, inextricably linked to political and social stability. You simply can't have one without the other.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We've just mapped out the incredible complexities of global public health and the vital equation of food security. We've seen how a microscopic threat or a supply chain failure in one hemisphere can impact the other within hours. But security doesn't just magically start at big international summits in Geneva. It starts locally. So consider your own community's readiness. How strong are your local healthcare infrastructures? How resilient are your local food supply chains? Because in our highly connected world, strengthening the invisible shield right at home is the very first step to ensuring our overall global survival. Keep asking those big questions, stay curious, and thanks for joining me on this one.